Like we may have Tasha. I don't know who the first person is.
Jolene Willis.
Yeah, Jolene. Tasha. Oh, the first one is a host. That's us. Good. All right, good afternoon, everyone. It is of the hour 3:30 on Monday, January 24th, 2024. We are opening up the Workforce Development Board, Kane Kendall, and the DeKalb County Executive Committee. Renee, will you please do the roll call?
Ford,
Present.
Hernandez, LaFever,
Here.
Mahachko,
Here.
Okay.
Willis. Here. Schoenholtz. Here. Oliver. Here. You have quorum in the room.
All right. I don't think we have anyone for public comment.
What about people online?
Could you call for a motion
Oh,
in a second to accept the online
thank
attendance?
you. So I like get a motion a second to accept the people online to being on.
Sure, I'll make the motion.
LaFever, second.
All right. I don't think we need a roll call. Any objections? Seeing none, welcome aboard. I don't think there's anyone for public comment, so we can move on to new business. And our first action item is our program year 2024 program budget and annual service plan.
Ron, could you also mention that the executive committee needs to determine that immediate action is required as well?
Okay.
And if I could suggest for the sake of convenience, perhaps you could ask for a motion to declare all action items necessitate emergency action with one motion.
So I got you. So we need a motion to accept the fact that all of our items today that are being presented are urgency. So I need a motion in a second.
I move that all items be considered an emergency today and action needs to be taken on them. Shane Holtz. Oliver, second.
All right. Probably should just do a roll call vote for that.
Ford,
Yes. Yes.
Mahachko,
Yes.
Willis,
Yes.
Schoenholtz,
Yes.
and Oliver.
Yes.
All right. Now let's move on to our first action item. Item A.
Thanks, Ron. I can give the overview this afternoon. Perhaps if you want to turn to page 3. Oops, sorry, 4. This gives you the snapshot and the draft plan for program year 24. The state did recently release the allocations for program year 24, which, as you know, begins July 1st. In order for us to access that allocation, we must craft a 1-year spending and service plan that accounts for both the carry-in and the new funding and submit that corresponding budget to DCEO. So you'll find at the very top of page 4, our revenue sources. The first source you'll see labeled as PY23 carry-in. This is our estimated carry-in figure. This will not be solidified until we report to the state on July 20th for our year-end June 30th expenses. So this is just a educated estimate in order for us to craft our plan. You'll see noted the PY 24 allocations, and then also a transfer in red between adult and dislocated worker funds. It actually, we are requesting today to move 700,000 from dislocated worker to adult. We do expect to continue serving more adults across the state. Service to those laid off has been down. With the economy being how it is, individuals are able to secure employment, and they're going that route before coming in and getting any sort of training assistance. Or they're accessing our job center and getting general help with their resume and preparedness for interviews. There's also a revenue source for our trade program. You all may remember that that grant is sunsetting. So these funds are relatively small and represent an award to serve the clientele that currently remain in the program, which is, I think we're about a handful right now of individuals that are continuing in training. So a small source there. The total, as you see noted, is just over 9.2 million. In the next table is the expenditures that we have planned for the coming year. The allocation we are receiving is an increase of 11%. So that's about a $700,000 increase that's going largely to the youth funding stream, but there's also a slight increase to adult. Our expenditure plan, you could see total expenses midway on the page is about 7.9 million. We've crafted this to achieve the benchmarks. You will see noted at the bottom, those are listed for the 24 grant. We do have to achieve an 80% expenditure or obligation benchmark by June 30th of 25. So the plan above does achieve that goal for both adult and dislocated worker. On the youth side, as to be expected, because we did receive additional funding, we do need to bridge a gap. And what we're proposing today is to set up a funding reserve for the youth providers so that if they do need more support for their participants in terms of, funds to reduce barriers or more training dollars for tuition, your approval today of that reserve will allow us staff to make those adjustments as needed along the way. The committee and the board last month, the youth committee that is, and the board did make some increases to some of the contracts. So that aligned well with the allocation we received this year. So with that additional strategy, we will achieve the financial benchmark for youth according to the plan. And then you may remember that we have a couple other requirements. One is that our plan achieves a 50% direct training expenditure on the adult and dislocated worker side. So what happens there is all of the expenses are factored and 50% of them must be geared towards classroom training, cohort training we have identified in here, work-based learning, supportive services. Those in combination must represent 50% of our total expenditures. So this plan does incorporate that benchmark, as well as on the youth out. There is a waiver the state of Illinois currently has where youth out can be as low as 50%. We're up where we normally are, which is closer to that 75%. So the bulk of our youth providers are working with kids that are out of school. And then lastly, the work-based training. This one I've identified as TBD because we're still finalizing the youth contracts. But the expectation is that every youth provider will expend 20% of their budget on work-based activities. We've always exceeded this annually, so I do not expect it to be an issue. I've just been unable to calculate it given the timing. A little bit about the expenses. As you'll see noted at the top of the expense category, we do have salary and benefits for Kane County program staff. That's a little shy of 32 FTEs. We also have operating expenses, which account for our 3 workforce offices, along with facility expenses that come with that, as well as, office supplies, postage, software, different fees. We also have required one-stop shared expenses. You all should be pretty familiar with those as part of our cost-sharing agreement with the 16 partners in our workforce area. This particular line item captures expenses like our staffing. We have 2 full-time staff plus a manager. There are certain equipment costs that are chargeable to the WIOA program, as well as some marketing and social media tools. And then next is the youth services. That is the total cost of our network based on the board's approval last month. There are 6 subrecipients. And what I've also factored in there is a slight increase for Grundy Kendall ROE. We are recommending that they resume 2 full-time staff rather than 1.5 based on the demands that they're seeing at their location. That's pending approval after this item, but I've already built it into the budget, so we can cover that expense. And then lastly, where you'll see significant funds budgeted is with direct training and work-based learning. As I mentioned, we calculated this with the 50% benchmark in mind. What is incorporated here are the 3 community college contracts you approved, I think in March, for that cohort training, or individual training accounts. Those are the funds that go to job seekers to get them those credentials and the training they need to get back to work. Supportive services. You've also approved a contracted readiness provider to help us support our job seekers. And then we also have incumbent worker projects and on-the-job training reimbursements budgeted for new hires. I wanted to point out that direct training and work-based learning are broad categories. And while we do set a budget for each of those items individually, the state does allow us to use them interchangeably. So for example, this year we did not see a significant need for support services. It's been down as opposed to years past. So we kind of budgeted level at 62,500. Should we need more, we're able to use funds from another line item where perhaps there is some underspending. So we do have flexibility to kind of combine that training and work-based training to meet our needs. So as I mentioned, our total expense budget is just under $8 million, aligns with our budget benchmarks. So we are presenting this budget to you today for consideration and approval.
Any questions or comments? All right.
I
seeing-
have a
Go ahead.
question.
Sure.
This is Chris. Should I abstain from this or should I abstain from the specific line item that's coming up?
I don't think it's necessary for you to abstain from this vote, but there's at least one other on the agenda that you probably should abstain from.
Okay, that's kind of what I was thinking. I just wanted to make sure. Thank you for taking that question.
I just got a question on the work-based training and the on the job training. How difficult it is to get those two connected? Are they coming to us saying we need these people, or?
It's a combination. They're two separate strategies. So incumbent worker is existing staff training.
Okay,
So there has to be a need by that employer to do some in-house training that will help elevate their workforce, or they would have to demonstrate that this is critical to making them more competitive or maintaining their revenue sources. So a company has to really be prepared to pursue that. So often we're getting companies that are in that position and we're ready to launch the projects. Other times they think they're ready and they come to us, and unfortunately those projects are never brought to fruition. So our preference is to work with those that are prepared, and often they're coming to us because they are prepared. Sometimes they're coming from a community college. They're pursuing some training with them and the college refers them over. Sometimes different associations refer people over. So there is referral on the job training. That's new hire. And so there is interest, but with that program, the job seeker has to be WIOA eligible. So sometimes it is challenging if someone says, hey, I would really like to hire this welder. Their skills don't really align. There's a gap. We have to determine if that new hire meets our eligibility requirements. So that's where sometimes these things don't work out or pan out. It's better when we're able to refer from our pool, but that has to result in the right match of soft skills, match of readiness. So they're challenging programs. I guess my point is they're challenging programs to operate and administer.
all right, it just seems like a difficult task. So,
It is.
any other questions or comments? Seeing none, can we do a roll call vote?
Do we have to
You
do
don't
a
get a
motion in a second?
Oh, no, we did, you're right. Can we get a motion a second?
I move that the budget be accepted. Shane Holtz.
Favorable second.
All right,
Board,
yes.
LaFever,
Yes.
Mahachko,
Yes.
Willis,
Yes.
Schoenholtz,
Yes.
Oliver,
Yes.
it's approved.
All right, moving on to item B, which I believe is on our action item 5 in our packet.
That's me again, I'm sorry.
I know it is.
As I mentioned with the budget, Grundy Kendall ROE has requested additional funds. This is to resume their previous staffing model of 2 FTEs. They offer and have been offering a lot of intensive support and coaching for their participants. And without having 2 full-time staff, they're really not able to achieve the best distribution of duties, and they're not as effective as they could be. So staff have reviewed the request. We do support that they resume 2 full-time staff. I believe as we've noted in the narrative, they are expecting to serve more in the program this year. I believe it's 7 more, also 3 more work placements than this current year. So we do recommend the increase be authorized today in an amount not to exceed $28,111.08.
Okay, can we get a motion a second?
Before we do that, I have a comment. Just wanted to point out to you in your write-up, you said that it increases the original award from 176,000 to 240,111. I think somebody reversed a couple numbers because it should be, if you are only adding 28,111.08, it should be going to 204,000.
That's
not
my error.
240. Okay, well.
That in the last
that's-
paragraph there?
It's in the, yes, before the staff recommendations.
So can I note it in the minutes to reflect the correct figure
Yes.
of the maximum? Which I don't have a calculator.
Any other questions? What is FTE?
A full-time equivalency.
Oh, all right.
I don't have a question,
04.
Ron, but
Sorry.
sorry, but I do have a comment that we have in the past, this program has been, has had 2 full-time equivalency. I don't know, Renee and Sky, you guys may have to help me on this one, but I think 2 years ago, we did not have the numbers that supported that. So we moved back down to 1.5, and we worked with Kane County to move some funds that we couldn't utilize to a program that's was able to utilize that. And now as the pendulum swings, well, now we see our numbers coming right back up. And now we're to the point where we need to go back to 2 full-time. So just so you guys kind of know the history of it, it used to be 2, went down to 1.5 when our numbers went down. And now the numbers are coming back up where we would need a 2. So that's why that's why this request is coming in.
All right, any other questions or comments? Can we get a motion a second?
I'll make a motion to increase the amount not to exceed the 28,000.
I'll second. Sorry.
All right, any other questions or comments? Seeing none, Renee, roll call vote, please.
Ford,
Yes.
LaFever,
Yes.
Mahatchko,
Abstain.
Willis,
Yes.
Schoenholtz,
Yes,
Oliver.
Yes.
It passes.
All right, so moving on to action item C, which is accept the recommendation of the certificate team regarding certification of the one-stop center in Batavia. And this should be on page 6. So. All right, and then who's doing this? Is Dee doing this presentation? All right, take it
right.
away.
Okay.
So a group of panel members got together and discussed the One Stop Center certification and kind of going through their evaluation. So the One Stop Center is required to get reviewed and certified with guidance and oversight of the local workforce board every 3 years. With that being said, our local area was tasked with with assembling, I can't say constituting, okay, a local one-stop certification team. The local certification team was assembled and we met to go over the one-stop application on Tuesday, June 4th, to assess and review updates needed in accordance with the procedures on the required application. This is needed every time the one-stop certification takes place. We spent about an hour and a half going through each line item thoroughly. The staff presented on the one-stop progress, the updates and the outcomes, and provided survey results from the partners, which resulted in meeting to exceeding expectations in that capacity. So meeting to exceed. After hearing about the growth that the One Stop has made since becoming a consortium. So as you recall, we had a one-stop operator. Now we've switched to the consortium. The group agreed that the One Stop meets provisional certification pending successful completion of the MOU. We are missing one signature page from the IDHS. And that is sitting at their legal department waiting for signature. So we're pretty confident that that will go through, but at this point, we need to stay where we're at from provisional and hoping that we can move when that page is received. So the application is currently in the routing process for panel member signature, which I believe we have everyone's okay, good. And then, so we'll be prepared to submit. We're just kind of hopeful to get that last signature from IDHS, but we don't have that yet.
All right, can we get a motion a second so we can go into discussion?
This is Shane Holtz. I move that we accept the recommendation.
Can we get a second?
LaFever, second.
Any questions or comments? Any online? All right, seeing none. Roll call vote, please.
Ford,
Yes.
LaFever,
Yes.
Mahachko,
Yes.
Willis,
Yes.
Schoenholz,
Yes.
Oliver.
Yes.
All right, motion carries.
Did someone just join us? I heard a doorbell sound.
I didn't.
I'm sorry.
Yes, this is Krista Flieger. I just joined.
All right.
Welcome.
All right. Good ears. I missed it. All right, next item is item D. Approval and continual eligibility of existing providers with both existing and new programs for our program year of 2024. Starting on page 7, I believe it's back to you, Renee.
In Janine's absence. So she did all of the heavy lifting for this action item. You may recall that it is up to the board to approve eligibility for existing training providers and any of their existing programs or new programs. We typically bring this to you on an annual basis. Unfortunately, it's largely due to the fact that fees change every year at the community colleges, at Northern, and the state considers that to be substantial change. And it does require you to look at our providers, which are A+ Healthcare, CDL America, Elgin Community College, Waubonsie Community College, Kishwaukee College, NIU, and the Building Fire Code Academy. So Janine has vetted all of their changes, which were minor She spent a lot of time getting the right links so that our job seekers, when they go to the site, are directed to the right landing page. So she is recommending approval for the existing providers. And then she's also vetted several new programs. NIU submitted, I think might be on the next page. Okay, here's NIU. They submitted a program on their non-credit side, which is called PayTrain. It's a robust training for the payroll industry, and you can gain a credential in a short period of time. You may recall at the board meeting, she was talking about the demand levels. So remembering the stop flight green is good. It's in demand. She's vetted these occupations and they're allowable to be on the list. Moving on to the next page, we have Elgin Community College. They have presented several introductory programs. So they have phlebotomy, respiratory care, and the demand has gone down with these. This is where our staff will have to use caution in working with the participant to make sure it's an appropriate choice and that there is demand in the local area. So the state does still require that we put these on the list. However, we will give instructions to our staff that care needs to be used. If you want to move to the next page, we have Kishwaukee College. They have several different programs, again, some introductory healthcare, vet tech, a law for policing. You can see here the varying demand level. Again, care will be used with several of the entry-level healthcare programs, as well as the early childhood education. That's the last one that you see. I think there might be one more. Oh, there it is. Building and Fire Code Academy. This was a recent ask to add their commercial building inspector program. Janine reported that this is for non-technical support staff or for those wishing to change their career path to code enforcement. The Fire Academy has observed a shift in demand. There's an increase in this occupation. And since it aligns with the state's demand levels, we're presenting it to you today for inclusion. I think that covers all of the new programs.
All right. Can we get a motion, a second for discussion?
Motion by Mahachko.
Second,
Oliver's,
Right, get a motion. So any,
Sorry, who moved
Mahachko.
or seconded?
Willis.
Thank you.
all right. So now any questions or comments? I just want to say it's interesting and that this building and fire code trade is looking for have people looking for employment, that training for that. That's not something that fills up our people move away from, that have openings, a great demand. That's pretty good.
Would you associate that, you think, with like just aging, people that are aging out of those positions?
Yeah, us older people retiring, that's any other questions or comments? All right, seeing none, roll call vote, please.
Ford,
Yes.
LaFever,
Yes.
Mahachko,
Yes.
Willis,
Yes.
Schoenholtz,
Yes.
Oliver.
Yes.
Passes.
All right. So I don't think we have a need for executive session that you know of. All right. I just want to say I appreciate and thank everybody be able to be here and show up. All right, we just need a motion to adjourn into our next meeting, which will be announced to be determined.
So move Shane Holtz.
Oliver second.
I think we do all in favor by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.